So everybody knows I did a interview with a self-described libertarian boogaloo boy, and I was unbelievably surprised at the stuff he was saying. Like, for instance, here it is. You're anti-war, you're for peace, you're against racism, you're against police brutality. What else? What would be some other big things?
Pro-sex work decriminalization, legalize all drugs, end all the wars, close the ICE detainment camps. Pretty much our core foundation is if you're not a bigoted piece of shit and you understand that both parties are the problem and you're willing to do something about it and you're willing to get out in the streets and you're willing to make your voice heard, you're welcome. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you do. In that video, it doesn't show it, but I walked in, the woman standing next to me is a local BLM organizer for Lansing, Michigan, and I walked in with the local anti-fascist organization as well.
So you're not about hating gays, and you don't hate the gays?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I was told that.
Matter of fact, I'm not the most straight man myself, so.
So that was, my jaw was on the floor when I heard that guy say that stuff, because I had the exact opposite opinion of those people. I thought they were all racists and they were all anti-gay, anti-Black Lives Matter for sure, I thought. But turns out he was saying the opposite, and I was called a white supremacist for just interviewing that guy. I was boosting him just because I interviewed him, because that's what corporate Democrats like to do. So this is from the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And what is the Anti-Defamation League? It's the leading anti-hate organization founded in 1913 in response. So there you go. So it's the leading anti-hate organization. And this is what, from their literature, this is what they say about the Boogaloo Boys. The Boogaloo movement is an anti-government extremist movement that formed in 2019. In 2020, Boogalooers increasingly engaged in real-world activities as well as online activities, showing up at protests and rallies around gun rights, pandemic reactions, and police-raided killings. The term boogaloo is a slang reference to a future civil war, a concept boogalooers anticipate and even embrace. The ideology of boogaloo movement is still developing, but is primarily anti-government, anti-authority, and anti-police in nature. Anti-police. Most boogalooers are not white supremacists, although one can find white supremacists within the movement. That's from the ADL. They say that. The Boogalooers' anti-police beliefs prompted them to participate widely in the Black Lives Matter protests following the killings of George Floyd by Minneapolis police. So that shocked me again, right? So people came at me, no, this guy's lying to you. I was told that guy was lying to me and that he's full of it and that I got duped. That's what I was told online. I was trended for 24 hours straight, probably longer. And it was all bad faith attacks because I dared to talk to a guy who was a boogaloo guy that the ADL says are not white supremacists. So I was told that guy was lying to me. I was told that I was a dupe and that I was boosting. That's what the smear was, that I was boosting white supremacists. The exact opposite of what was happening. And so now I'm going to, so by the way, they would say, oh, they're Trumpers. Those guys, why are you boosting Trumpers and racists? And the ADL says the recent history of the militia movement during the Trump administration has caused many boogalooers to take a dim view of that movement. So they're not Trumpers. They're anti-establishment. And those right-wing militia, a lot of them were supporting Trump. So this is according to the ADL. That's not Jimmy Dore saying it. But again, people will twist this just like they did. And hopefully I'll trend again because of it. And then people will come watch the video and they'll see that all those bad faith attacks are bullshit. So I wanted to bring out an even more of an expert. I'm going to bring on an even more of an expert. Our guest is an artist and talented documentarian. His films include The War of North Dakota and Flowers for Peace. He spent 4 years making a documentary about the Proud Boys and Antifa called The Oppressed Majority. His latest movie is called 2020, The Dumpster Fire. He's actually on the ground with social movements. I welcome his insights. It's Rod Weber. Hey, Rod, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, you personally yourself have interviewed lots of boogaloos. Now, you saw the interview that I did He said he was anti-police brutality, anti-war, anti-ICE, anti-corporate control of the state, and pro-LGBT and pro-Black Lives Matters. How representative do you think that guy that I interviewed is representative of the Boogaloos?
Well, I should correct you on one thing there. I've interviewed a lot of Proud Boys. The Boogaloo thing is a little bit newer, and while I have interviewed some of them, it depends on who you ask. There's definitely some left-wingers among them, but if you look to, say, Unicorn Riots, leaked chat from Discords, you can hear them in their own voice, very many of them saying all kinds of racist things. So I have to say that there is some merit to what people are saying. I mean, first and foremost, I would even say you need to start talking more shit about Tucker Carlson and his rants about his white nationalism. You need to be talking shit about Tim Pool.
Rod, don't do that. We're not talking about fucking Tucker Carlson. We're not talking about shit I should be doing. We're talking about this fucking guy and the Boogaloo Boys. I'm not talking. What the fuck are you doing?
Oh, okay.
Can you talk about what we're talking about? I asked you about the Boogaloo Boys, and you start telling me what I should be doing with Tucker Carlson. What
all
the
right,
fuck?
well, then let's go directly to his Twitter threads.
No,
and all the stuff,
dude.
What about all this
Dude,
stuff
I'm
from
asking
Magnus
you,
talking about his support of Kyle Rittenhouse?
Dude, I'm asking you about the Boogaloo Boys and what you know about them, and if what the ADL is saying is correct. Is what the ADL saying, is that correct?
What I know about this particular Boogaloo boy, Magnus Panvidya, in his own words on Twitter, he's talking about his support of Kyle Rittenhouse, and it's a hill that he's willing to die on. When asked whether he's left or right, and whether BLM is more important than what happened with Rittenhouse, he says, he'll die on that hill, the Rittenhouse hill, and he says, I choose both / shrug. I mean, there is some merit to what people are talking about.
Okay, so that guy in particular, you're saying that guy in particular is a defender of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so and Kyle Rittenhouse was the guy. Was it Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Where was it? Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
And
the Kenosha shooter.
Yeah. And who did he kill? Who did he kill?
Well, he killed 2 people and he maimed one guy's arm. A BLM medic.
Okay.
So I mean there's legitimate problems with this guy. I mean, I don't want to tell you what you need to do, but
no. Let's talk about so when that guy came on, you think he was bullshitting me?
I think that he was not telling the whole truth about who he was.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I believe that he's a left libertarian in many ways, but left libertarians certainly support Duncan Lemp and Kyle Rittenhouse. And the Kyle Rittenhouse support is problematic to a lot of lefties. It's like saying, oh, we're going to get together with Charles Manson. Oh, yeah. Okay, but he wrote some Beach Boys song.
Okay. That makes sense, Rod. That makes sense. Yeah. I would have a problem with that too. Yeah, that's a big that's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So then what do we do? What do we do when a guy like that shows up with someone from Antifa and Black Lives Matter and claims all the things he claims? What do we do with that guy? Do we not talk to? I mean, you've talked to those guys.
Oh, I'd say it's on a case-by-case basis, and what we need to do is vet them more, before putting them out on the internet, to tons of people, to let them just say what they want to say unchecked. I think a lot of people had a problem with you not pushing back on these particular issues. When Boogaloo comes up, the first thing that I'm looking up is I did a cross search of Magnus Panvidya and Kyle Rittenhouse. Boom, there, it's coming right up. And so, know what their problems are.
Yeah.
I mean, because these are common issues. It's a thread that is ongoing with these kind of folks.
So when you would, okay. So we saw, so I saw a video of him calling for unity, and so we reached out to him to interview him, and I interviewed him, and my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah, and so a lot of folks,
and then a lot of folks say, no, Jimmy, that guy's lying to you. So then I go to the ADL and I look up the ADL and they say, no, that guy's not lying to you. They actually support Black Lives Matter, and they're not racists. So, but then you say that on Twitter he supports Kyle Rittenhouse, and so that
well,
so that's problematic.
I mean, for me, that's a deal breaker.
Okay.
And a lot of these left libertarians are for gay pride, LGBTQ issues, but on the other hand, then they're for Kyle Rittenhouse. And
so when you say it's a deal, breaker, what does that mean?
Well, that's personally for me, and I think a lot of other.
But what deal does that break? What deal does that break? The deal that you'll talk to them, or the deal that you'll work with them on common interests? Does that break that deal?
No. On me platforming them. I mean, that's it's something where I will push back hard. If I'm going to put something like that in a documentary, I'm going to make sure that there's strong pushback against that.
So I should have that. I should probably have that guy back on, and you would say I should challenge him on his Kyle Rittenhouse affiliation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
Okay, will do. So that's good. How would I even know to Google that? How would I even know to Google Boogaloo Boy? You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't, like, if I didn't, again, if I went to look up Boogaloo Boys and I went to ADL, it would say the opposite. And so I wouldn't, I've since seen that. People say, oh, no, on Twitter, he's talking about Kyle. Well, how would I fucking know that before? And then you, of course, knew to put it in because you're a specialist on this stuff. But anyway, so, all right, so that's a good, so yeah, well, I'd
say that you also you just kind of need to be in some more anti-fascist circles. I'd say follow Daryl Lamont Jenkins, follow Annie Fash Gordon, follow Rose City Antifa or Antifa, as some prefer to say. You just kind of need to have a point and counterpoint. While he's saying what he's saying, you need to hear the counterpoint from folks.
Okay, that would be. But so when you say deal breaker, you don't mean deal breaker like I wouldn't work with someone like that on an anti-war, or I wouldn't work with someone like that on pro-LGBT, or I wouldn't. Is that what you mean when you say deal? You just mean deal breaker like you would push back on that person when you interviewed them. That's what you mean?
Me personally, I'm a documentarian, so the deal that I'm making with any of these folks is we're sharing screen time, and so there would be strong pushback, and I would make sure that these things were made aware to the public if I was giving them screen time. As far as working with them, again, that's on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
For me, I don't think I could work with this guy, and I'm not really sure what he'd have to offer. He's not in a power position, really. And so this is one of the things that you're talking about all the time is, everyone at the top versus everyone at the bottom. Left and right libertarians talk about bottom unity,
right?
Which is collaborating with the left and the right. But then going beyond that is what you call a red-brown alliance, which red being the lefties, brown being the right, and that's what you call a fascist alliance. And you don't want to go down the road of a fascist alliance. And a lot of folks see the support of Rittenhouse as beyond the pale, that you're engaging in a fascist alliance when you do that.
Okay. And so that's great. That's good information. So what do you now? You've talked to Proud Boys more than Boogaloo Boys because your research was prior to the formation of most of the Boogaloo Boys. What would you say? Yeah. Like, so now, a lot of people just say you just have to write those people off. But other people say that you have to have a message for those people. Because economic hardship makes people vulnerable to right-wing ideologies and extremism and demagogues. So I've always heard my whole life that it's important that the left has a message to reach those people so they don't go over to the dark side. And a lot of people are saying to me, no, you're not supposed to have a message for those people. You're supposed to write them off. Is that what you recommend?
With someone like this, if they're doing support of Kyle Rittenhouse, it does seem beyond the pale for me. And there are those like Daryl Lamont Jenkins who is better equipped toward bringing fascists and fascist ideologies and deprogramming them. Whether Magnus is beyond the pale. It's something like that. I couldn't tell you. It's a more specialized
so you don't have a
compartment of
so
learning
Rod,
that I haven't gone down that road.
so you don't have a message when you interviewed all those Proud Boys. You never came up with a message to for them. You don't have you don't recommend anybody reach out to them with a specific message.
Okay. We're making a distinction between Proud Boys in the early stages, which were libertarians who basically were putting out the idea that they were for the Second Amendment. As things progressed, things became more fascist in their nature. The message that I can give to a guy who's trying to punch me in the face is, hey, stop punching me in the face. You got to understand that the message, as you're saying, should be like what Bernie Sanders put out there. But Bernie Sanders betrayed everyone too, as you rightly pointed out all the time. With this stimulus package, betrayed everyone, and the U.S. government continues to betray everyone. So as long as the government keeps doing what it's doing, it's going to push people to the streets. It's going to push people towards both left and right anarchism, and the right anarchism ends up being these people who do all the shootings. How can you work with someone who's putting a gun in your face or punching you in the face or worse?
So like what Fred Hampton did in Chicago, so like when Bernie Sanders goes on when Bernie Sanders goes on Fox News, the reason he goes on Fox News isn't to prop up right-wing fascists, it's to bring his message to right-wing fascists and to let them know that they have common interests and that it's us against them, it's not left-right. And do you recommend that message to the Proud Boys and all the people you've been interviewing, or do you recommend no message?
I would say that Fred Hampton wasn't working with fascists. Fred Hampton was reaching out to poor white folks who might have had conservative ideas.
Rod, they were racists. They were committed racists.
Committed racist is different from people trying to shoot in the street.
Okay, Rod. So again, why do you sound like a politician right now? You sound like a politician. You don't want. It sounds like you don't want to give me a straight answer. So when Bernie Sanders goes on Fox News, and he brings his message that we have more in common, and that you're being screwed by the system too, and that these ideas are good. Are you against that?
Bernie's fucking us. Bernie's fucking us too. The system is fucking us.
Okay.
So I can't speak to what Bernie Sanders is thinking. Is it two homes that he wants to keep? Is his message truly going to reach people when he's got all that money, when he's got that power? I don't think so. How the fuck are you supposed to tell some poor people that Bernie Sanders has the answers for you? He doesn't, because he's fucking it up too.
So what would you tell those people?
I think I am answering straight.
What would you tell those people?
I would tell those people to work locally, because obviously at the higher echelons of government, we're losing control. The people in there are bought and sold by the corporatocracy. The best that you can do is work locally. To do mutual aid. There's a lot of mutual aid networks that left anarchists are doing. The Antifa groups are going around making sure people have food, making sure people are sheltered, making sure people aren't getting kicked out of their homes. One of the big Antifa things that actually happened recently was the Red House in Portland, and they were making sure that this family didn't get evicted. So they're blocking evictions. Right now, because of the pandemic and because of the shutdown, we're beyond fucked, and people do not have that trust in the government. So it's beyond me to tell people what they should fucking believe in. As far as the government goes, all I can say is that we help each other. That's what I would tell them. But don't help Boogaloo Boys, and don't help. Who are that's what I'm trying to ask you. Who are the people when you say help each other? Who are those people? Who are the each other? Does that include that guy who was on my show, or does it not include that guy? So people who are victims of this economic downturn and the government, our fascist government. Who do you reach out to? Do you have a litmus test before you ask them if they need your help? I believe that everyone should be getting that $2,000 stimulus, and that would include him. But I'm not necessarily going try to enable him, going off and doing some shootings or
would you
some
try
of the
to
militia kind of activities that he does.
Would you try to de-radicalize him?
Absolutely.
Well, that's
but,
what.
Again,
so, what's your message to do that?
My specialty,
Rod. What would be a message to do that?
The message would be to bring him in with specialists. But I think right now we have to get beyond the pandemic. The pandemic has fucked everyone.
So this idea that you need a specialist to talk to somebody, I think is a cop-out to that question. Because the next guest I'm going to have on is a black musician who got the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan to turn. And he said, I'm not a socialist and I'm not a psychologist. I'm a musician. And if I can do that, anybody could do it. And the way you do it is by engaging. You don't do it by labeling people as you can't talk to them. You do it by talking to those people, right?
Jimmy, I've sat down with guys from Resist Marxism, from Patriot Prayer. I've bought them dinner. I have done all the things that you're talking about. But with each passing day, with each passing month, they seem to become more and more radicalized because of the pandemic. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I have literally tried myself. I sat down with Brandon Navam, with Joey Gibson. I don't know what to tell you. In my experience, it is very, very difficult. And if you can do it, absolutely, go ahead and keep pushing it and try to de-radicalize them. The only way to
de-radicalize them is to engage them. To not engage them. So what my next guest, his motto is fear. Ignorance breeds fear, and fear breeds hatred. And when we operate out of fear, that creates the ground for violence. And so the only thing that gets away from that is understanding and dialogue. And so I open a dialogue and everybody wants to say I'm somehow a white supremacist or I'm supporting them when I specifically said the opposite. I said I'm not doing that. And still people are saying that about me. And so what they're doing, Rod, they're making it toxic to talk to people. And so it would be helpful if people like you, who actually did a documentary on this, could try to take away some of that stigma, because you talk to many, many Proud Boys and you have dinner, you're friends with Boogaloo Boys, right? And so if you could take away that stigma, that's why I really brought you on, to show that you've been able to engage with these people, you're friends with some of them, you've had dinner with them, and that they're actually human beings, and we need to have a message for these people to get them de-radicalized. But what you seem to be doing is still trying to keep it toxic to even talk to these people, even while admitting that you've had dinner with them, talked to them, and you're friends with them.
I'm talking with them privately. That's the distinction.
But so we should make it toxic to talk to them publicly.
For me, if I'm going to put them on a video that's live or otherwise, I need to put that hard pushback on the things that I find problematic, like the sport of Kyle Rittenhouse in the case of Magnus Panvidya.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of
it. Privately, I'd be happy to talk to him at length.
Okay. So I had no, I had no idea about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing when I interviewed that guy. I was just interviewing him and taking him at face value, and I was pushing back. I'm like, you're not anti-gay, you're not anti. So and then I also said, I don't know anything about this group. I think it's helpful to bring people on platforms and have them talk. I think it's helpful to see that to see different people from the left and the right talk to each other, just to talk. It's super helpful. And this idea that we got to make it, you got to be afraid if you're gonna. I had a guy on said, "Oh, you're flirting with libertarians." The fact that we're making it toxic for Americans to talk to other Americans, right? We're in this moment now when our government is abandoning us, and we all know that there might be a civil war coming. It's more important now than ever to talk to people because of COVID, because we're all being screwed by the government. It's more important to talk to, it's called class consciousness. So do you when you don't recommend, I'm pretty sure, you don't recommend that some of our people in our same class we don't talk to, right? You don't recommend that, right?
I recommend that a lot of this talking be done in private. I'm not saying that there aren't ways to publicly do some of these discussions, but it has to be done in a careful fashion. And
So be scared to talk to people. I got it. You got to be scared to talk to people. You got to be scared because people are going to twist your words and they're going to. So you got to be super scared. And let's make sure nobody talks to each other on air, so nobody gets to know what the other side's about. If you talk to a person, just do it one-on-one and never do it again. I disagree with that 1,000%. That's a bad idea. That's not. But so we'll disagree on that.
We definitely did.
Yeah. So it's super important to talk to people. And
you should.
And the idea that we should be afraid to do it on camera is cowardly. So I'm not going to do that. It takes guts to do that.
I didn't say afraid. That's your word.
What's
that?
Your
word. I'm not afraid to talk to them on camera. Those are your words there. I'm saying that it's not a good idea to put them on camera when we haven't researched them well and you're not giving pushback on the correct points.
Okay. Point taken. That's why I got you here, Rod. So you would agree that the left has to have a message for people so they don't get drawn towards right-wing extremism? Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I believe the message should be that we need to help each other. And in my way of thinking, that is doing it in a private way. That you can, as I've done, have someone for dinner, to buy them dinner, to get them food, to take care of the things that are needed for them. There's nothing wrong with engaging in mutual aid that helps one of those people. Does it sometimes make me cringy to hear the things they're saying? Yeah, but like you said, that's the communication that you need to get going back and forth. My message is, help each other.
Do you ever get accused of being friends with Nazis because you're friends with Boogaloo Boys and Proud Boys? You ever get accused of that?
Absolutely. There's an article that was published in the Boston Dig. Basically, the Boston Globe accused me of being a Nazi.
Really?
Because yes, the right wingers trolled me and published me as one of the speakers falsely at this rally right after Charlottesville. And so I got branded a Nazi for by this paper. Anyone who knows me certainly didn't believe it. And largely it was sitting down with these folks that were organizing it. And but I was giving hard pushback, and I don't think that anyone believed that I was actually a Nazi. But certainly the Boston Globe, they fucked it up. They didn't want to retract it. And the only reason they retracted it is because the editor over at the Boston Dig had me on as a guest writer to write this article.
Wow, that's lucky for you. That was nice, right? So you know what it's like to be falsely accused of being a Nazi or a white supremacist, and that's a horrible feeling. So I've just been living through this for the last couple of days. So here's something also interesting. When your movie, The Oppressed Majority, was released on YouTube, Rod, YouTube took down your entire channel. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this new era of censorship from big tech and the left? What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think that big tech, or at least the big social media companies, Facebook, Twitter, they're basically an arm of the U.S. government. If you look at the Atlantic Council or the State Department working with Facebook, as Lee Camp has done many of his shows about, you can see that they're working in tandem with the U.S. government. So you take that to the Pruneyard Shopping Center case, which is actually brought up in my own lawsuit against Donald Trump, which actually he just wrote me a check for $20,000 because of that. But the Pruneyard case talks about privately owned public companies. And so the rationale there, as far as jurisprudence goes, is in this Pruneyard Shopping Center, if you have a police station there or other, there was like Army recruitment centers, the more government things that you have within the shopping center, the more it functions as a public place, although it's owned privately. And this came up because lefties wanted to pass out their hippy-dippy lefty flyers and talk about peace and love and all those horrible things. If you've heard of Karl Popper's the paradox of tolerance, then there's like a paradox of free speech. Where in a society where you have free speech, some people's speech becomes elevated over others, like a Jeff Bezos or Facebook and Twitter. Jack at Twitter, his speech becomes so large that it actually becomes oppressive. And so if you apply Karl Popper's paradox of tolerance at that, you need to regulate those who have that kind of power over you. Their platforms have become fascistic.
Yeah, I agree with you that their platforms have become fascistic. And so what happens? Your channel's still down?
The channel went back up after 5 months and dozens, if not hundreds, of appeals. People supported me and sent faxes, sent emails, and basically tagged them on Twitter.
And what was the rationale that they gave you? What did they say why they took your channel down?
Hate speech. They said I was engaging in hate speech. When it was explicitly against hate speech, of course. And anyone that knows me, or anyone that actually just watched the movie, would know that it was all the right wingers engaging in all the hate speech.
So as we wrap up, I just want to say, fuck Nazis.
Fuck Nazis all day, all night. Fuck those fucking Nazis.
To wrap up, Rod, the reason why I brought you on was because you reached out to me and you told me, hey, you needed to push back on that guy, and here's why. And I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't fucking know that about that guy, and so I'd appreciated you doing that. And your critique of my interview with him is not that I shouldn't talk to that guy, but that I should have been more prepared to push back against some of the stuff that he was saying.
Correct.
Okay, I agree with that. I don't think you can. Yeah. I don't think you can disagree with that. But
I mean,
yeah. I don't think.
Fuck Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yes. Fuck Kyle Rittenhouse. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and that was very helpful because I know you and you're of goodwill, and you've been slimed in the same ways that I've been smeared and slimed, and so that's why I really appreciated you reaching out to me, because you have insight into this, and it was helpful for you to tell me, how to handle an interview like that better going forward. Certainly. I thought I had put enough caveats in that interview when I was saying things like, I'm not endorsing anything. This is just what this guy's saying. I don't know. I'm just going to have to take a minute. So I thought I had put enough caveats in there that would take care of that. But of course, when you have people who want to smear you, they want to smear you. So, I mean, I got smeared just for advocating for Medicare for all and for Julian Assange to be let go. So people find ways to do that.
That's the craziest thing. I mean, they keep kicking in the dick because they don't like the messenger rather than the message. Medicare for all and your push to force the vote is the most sensible thing that I've heard in many years, especially in a pandemic. I don't know what's up Sam Cedars' ass and all these other lefties that have an issue with you over that. Honestly, if you care for Medicare for all, if you care for the people, you should be behind that. And that's why I appreciate that you're putting that out there. And if you're grumpy about it, Jimmy's grumpy and he's saying it in an angry way, then, get over it. But on the other hand, also push back on these Boogaloo boys.
Yes. Well, I wish I would have had you on with him. That would have been much better.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It happened. I'm operating here and trying to operate in good faith. I'm trying to operate in the spirit of Fred Hampton. It's getting scary out there, which is why I think we need more dialogue, because when we stop talking, that's when the violence starts. And I'd rather have us dialogue, and, social movements need to dialogue with each other and find common ground. I remember when people were against Antifa, regular people. And then Cornel West said how they saved his life in Charlottesville. Dialogue's always better, and not dialoguing is when problems start or get worse.
Cornel told me one of my mantras. I met him on the 2016 campaign trail, and I asked him, how are we going to achieve peace in our lifetime? And he said, you just got to go out there and bear witness. And when he kind of extrapolated on that, it was kind of what we're saying now, that you got to reach out to each other. But again, I don't think he was talking about platforming. I mean, he was talking about just being there, to be in the moment, to see what it is, and to bear witness and tell the truth about what you see. So I appreciate Cornel so much for taking that time with me.
Okay. So Everybody, check out the new movie. Your new movie. It's called the 2020 The Dumpster Fire, and it's all about the 2020 election. Where can people check that out, Rob?
Rod.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's all good. That would be on my Twitter, which is Rod Weber. My YouTube channel is also Rod Weber. It's just the trailer right now, but within the next month or two, we should be getting that up on Hulu and other streaming platforms, and we hope to see it in theaters because we're working on that too.
So when it's ready, come back. Let me know, and I'd love to have you back on, and we'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Rod Weber, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for the work you do. And we'll keep our lines of communication wide open for each other. How about that?
All right, sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Jimmy.
Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.